for today. But before that, I have prepared a riddle for you. So here it is. I'm a 5-letter word. Take away my first letter and I still sound the same. Take away my last letter and I still sound the same. But remove my middle letter and I do not sound the same. What am I? Oops. Do you guess the answer? Okay, good job. So the answer is S-P-E-L-L. Spell. But before we dive into our discussion, I am your virtual teacher. I'm Shalmi Beaver Gar. And with my co-teachers, the Group 5 from BSN English 2 and 1. So our discussion is about the spelling and spelling reform and language change and reconstruction. Spelling and spelling reform. So spelling is the way which words are written using the correct letters and in correct order. So for example, the word cat is spelled with the letter C, A, and T in that order. So next we have the spelling reform. Spelling reform refers to the effort to change the traditional spelling of words to make them simpler, more consistent, or easier to learn. The goal of spelling reform is often to improve literacy and make reading and writing more accessible. For example, we have also the case of spelling reform. First, we have the complexity and the inconsistency. Complexity and inconsistency. English spelling is notoriously inconsistent. For example, the word O-U-G-H combination can be pronounced in several ways, as in though, through, and cuff. So do you find it difficult? Yes, because this inconsistency can confuse learners and make it difficult to predict how to spell a word based on its pronunciation. So second, we have impact on literacy. So difficult spelling can hinder literacy rates. Many people struggle with spelling, which can affect their confidence and willingness to engage in reading and writing. Simplifying spelling could potentially make literacy more accessible to a broader audiences. For example, a child struggling to spell friend or F-R-I-E-N-D might feel discouraged and less likely to write stories or participate in class. That's how confidence is very important. So the last one, we have the globalization and language evolution. As English becomes a global lingua franca, the need for a more standardized and simplified spelling system may arise. Different dialects and variations of English can lead to further confusion, and a reformed spelling system could help unify the language. For example, a simplified spelling system could help non-native speakers learn English more easily, such as using photo spelled as F-O-T-O instead of photo, which is P-H-O-T-O. So that's the end of my discussion, and I hope you learned something. And for the continuation about the arguments against spelling reform, we have Mr. Val Capio. And for the example of spelling reform proposals, we have Mr. Joharis Undang.
Our next topic for today is against spelling reform. So the first one is cultural and historical significance. Spelling is deeply tied to the history and culture of a language. Many argue that changing spelling could erase important historical connections and roots of the language. For example, the word night, K-N-I-G-H-T, has historical roots, and changing it to night NITE could lose its connections to the past. So the next one is resistance to change. Language is often resistant to the change, and many people may be attached to the traditional spellings. Implementing a spelling reform could face significant pushback from educators, writers, and the general public. Many people might prefer to keep the traditional spelling of truth, TH, through. For example, many people might prefer to keep the traditional spelling of through rather than switch to through, leading to confusion. For example, many people might prefer to keep the traditional spelling of through, THROUGH, rather than switch to THRU, leading to confusion. So the third one is practical challenges. Changing the spelling of words would require a massive overhaul of educational materials, literature, and digital content. This would lead to confusion and a transitional period where both old and new spellings coexist. For example, if a school starts teaching enough ENUF instead of enough ENOUGH, it would require new textbooks and materials which could be costly and time-consuming.
Good day, class. I am here in front of you to discuss about the examples of spelling reform proposals. So I have 3 reform proposals, which is simplified spelling, elimination of silent letter, and standardization. So first, we have simplified spelling. So some proposals suggest using phonetic of spelling where words are spelled as they sound like. For example, color. They spell the word color as COLOUR. So instead of COLOUR, it will be simplified COLOR. So color. But it is still the same in meaning. Second is elimination of silent letters. So removing silent letters could simplify spelling, such as changing ISLE as I'll. It becomes ILE, I'll, but it's still the same in meaning. Standardization. So standardization, creating a standardized spelling system that applies uniformly across different dialects of English. Like for example, program. They spell the word program as PROGRAMME, and now it becomes PROGRAM. But it is still the same in meaning.
Start.
So the next lesson is language change and reconstruction, and Ms. Apanta will continue the discussion.
Hi class! And for today's video, we will be discussing the language change and the language reconstruction. Language change is a constantly developing new things to talk about, so we need to create new words, expression, or grammar to communicate about new things. I have some question here. Why does language change over time? So, the idea of language change entails the development of modification of language throughout time. This change is observable in vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar as language evolves in response to social, culture, and technological changes, but there's more about language learning. So language learning is a scientific journal dedicated to the understanding of language learning broadly defined, but there are types of language change. Ms. Nina Zapata will be discussing these sound changes, Mr. Lloyd Dumusmo will be discussing lexical changes. Mr. Bernard Campos will be discussing the semantic changes. And Mr. Renan Montemayor will be discussing the social factor and language contact. And lastly, Mr. Dan Flores will be discussing the standardization versus variation and language depth. So no worries guys, I will be right back. Mr. Zapanta will be right back. Bye!
I'm here to discuss the types of the language change. First is sound changes. An alteration is how a language is pronounced. A sound change may entail the substitution of a particular speech sound or more broadly, a specific phonetic feature value, referred to as phonetic change, or a broader alteration of the existing speech sounds, phonological change, like the combination of two sounds or the emergence of a new sound. Here are some examples of sound changes. In a simulation, English hand plus you or handy. The D changes to dy to match the Y sound. Next is delineation. In English, night. The K sounds soft to end and it sounds like night. The last one, the deletion. For example, the knee. You extract the K so the sounds like it's knee.
I'm here to discuss the lexical changes, a process through which the vocabulary of a language evolves over the time. This can occur through various mechanisms including the creation of new words, changes in word meaning in the borrowing of terms from other languages.
So, it is a combining parts of two words to create a new word. Example, smog. Smoke plus fog. Smog. So, neologism is creating a complete new word. Example, Sophie. Borrowing. Adopting a word from another language. Example, sushi from Japanese. Clipping, shortening a word to create a new shorter word. Example, telephone to phone. Adding prefixes or suffixes to a word to create a new word. Example, happy, happiness. Compounding, combining two words to create a new word. Example, book plus shelf, bookshelves. Back formation, so creating a new word by removing the suffix or prefix from an existing word. Example, editor comes to edit. Conversion, changing a word part of speech without changing its form. Example, run. Run. The run there is a verb and run there is a noun.
I'm going to discuss the semantic changes. It's a form of language change regarding the evaluation of words. Usage usually to the point that the modern meaning is radical difference from the original, radically difference from the original usage.
So, here are the examples of semantic changes. We have broadening. So, it's the word here is nice. Originally meant foolish, but now means pleasant or agreeable. So next is narrowing. The word here is deer. Originally referred to any animal, now specifically refers to a certain type of mammal. Shift in connotation. The word here is silly. Originally meant happy or blessed, but now means foolish or ridiculous. We have here a metaphorical.
Metaphorical.
We have here metaphorical extension. The word here is head. Originally referred to the body part, but now it also refers to a leader or a source. Lastly, we have semantic bleaching. The word here is terrible. Originally meant frightening or terror-inducing, but now means bad or unpleasant.
Today I'm going to discuss about social factors. Language arts is often influenced by social factors including migration, contact with other languages, and shape in cultural norms. For example, the rise of the internet and social media has led to the creation of new slang and formal language. Let's proceed to language contact. When speakers of different languages interact, they may borrow words, phrases, and grammatical structures from one another, leading to language change. This can result in pidgins, creoles, and bilingualism. Pidgins and creoles example. Hawaiian pidgin emerged as a simplified language for communication between native Hawaiians and foreign traders. Example, aloha, bra. How are you stay? Hello brother, how are you?
I'm here to discuss the standardization versus variation. Standardization versus variation, the process of standardizing a language can lead to the suppression of dialect and regional variation. However, variation is a natural part of language and reflects the diversity of human experience. In this example, color is the standard spelling in British English. Color is a standard spelling in American English. So both words have the same meaning, but the spelling is standardized differently in different regions. This shows how language can have variations in spellings, vocabulary, or grammar, but still be widely understood and used. Their speakers shift to another language, often due to social, political, or economic pressures. Language death, also known as language extension, occurs when a language is no longer spoken or used as a native language. So some examples. Hawaiian in Hawaii, USA. Although this is spoken by some native speakers, Hawaiian is considered an endangered language due to the influence of examples highlights the importance of language preservation and documentation efforts to protect linguistic diversity.
And today I will be discussing the language reconstruction, this is the last slide, or this is the last page of our PowerPoint. So next, language reconstruction have 6 types. We have here comparative method, second is proto-languages, third is internal reconstruction, fourth is limitation, fifth is cultural context, sixth is technologies advances. So comparative method is a linguist use the comparative method to reconstruct aspects of ancient or untested languages by comparing similarities and differences among related languages. So I have the example of internal reconstruction. In English, the verb go has an irregular past tense. We have went. By analyzing the internal structure of English verbs, linguists can infer that go and went come from a common ancestral form. So I have some example of comparative method. Comparing the words for father in a different language. We have here English, German, Dutch, Swedish. So for the English is father, for the German is Vater, and for the Dutch is Vader, and the Swedish is Far. The second one is proto-languages. Proto-Indo-European is the reconstructed ancestor of many modern languages in Europe and parts of Asia. Third is internal reconstruction. This technique involves analyzing irregularities within a single language to infer or historical changes. By examining the patterns of variation, linguists can make educated guesses about earlier form of languages. Fourth is limitation. Reconstruction can provide valuable insights. It has limitations. The further back in one goes, the less data available, making challenging reconstruction languages accurately. And I have some example of limitation. In limitation, I have here some example. The lack of written records for many ancient languages makes it difficult to reconstruct their grammar and vocabulary. Fifth is cultural context. A language. Fifth is cultural context. It is a language of reconstruction. It's not just about phonetics and grammar. It also involves understanding the cultural and historical context of the speakers. So, the examples, fifth is cultural context. It is a language of reconstruction. It's not just about phonetics and grammar. It also involves understanding the cultural and historical context of the speakers. So, the examples, six is technologies advances. Advances in technologies such as computational linguistics and machine learning are enhancing the ability to analyze language data and reconstruct languages more effectively. Cultural context language is shaped by its cultural context. Example, in many indigenous cultures, language is closely tied to traditional knowledge and practices. The loss of language can lead to the loss of cultural heritage. Technological advances have improved linguistic reconstruction. I have some example. Computational methods such as phylogenetic analysis have enabled linguists to reconstruct language relationship more accurately and efficiently. So that is the end of our six is technologies advances. Advances in technologies such as computational linguistics and machine learning are enhancing the ability to analyze language data and reconstruct languages more effectively. And that is the end of our discussion. We are the Group 5 teachers.